Welcome to WholeCEO with Lisa G. I'm the best-selling author of The Boss Weight Loss. I'm bringing you the top tips to be unstoppable. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to actually pull up a chair with today's top experts in mindset, weight loss, business, and more. Learn our top tips so that you can have more energy, be fit and resilient, feel unstoppable, unshakable, and unbreakable. He's the founder of Covey Holdings and EVP at Revolution Mortgage. Over the last 2 decades, he's been building and leading multi-billion-dollar teams. His 10x growth in the most recent team took the regional production from 245 million to 245 billion in less than 5 years. He is an authority driving and building high-performance teams. As a former D1 athlete, he's mastered the art of winning and captivating a champion mindset captured in his book and all the media appearances he's done, and his top-rated podcast, Finding Your Competitive Edge, which is why I am so thrilled to welcome to the show, Brian Covey. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Lisa. Excited to be here on the show. And I know we've connected a lot on LinkedIn and social, so it's great to be here.
Yeah, I'm all about networking, and LinkedIn is my favorite social media platform. And I love the title of your podcast. How can we create a winning edge?
Yeah, so this competitive edge really was birthed from me being an athlete for majority of my life. Still today, I consider myself more of a corporate athlete, and I'm a dad and a husband and all of that stuff first. But we also, we compete in all areas of our life. As I started to really study that and look at the greats out there and who I wanted to be, I wanted to compete, right? In my faith, my family, my fitness, my finances. For me, that's just the nature of what's there. And so what we started to do is look at guests that were on, and I was curious, what was their competitive edge? What drove them to competition with themselves, or why did they still show up? Many of these guests, multi millions of dollars, right? So check the box. They've built teams and they've checked the box in the business side. They've done all these things. Why are they still showing up and competing? And what we found through all of them is there was a story, something unique about their upbringing. They typically had faced some adversity. They had figured out through that, they built strength. And so I love to find out what's their competitive edge, because usually that'll tell us a lot about who they are, how they got there. But also for anybody listening, it's like, oh, I'm like them. Like I could do that too. And then we realize we're really not that different. There's just small separators that most of us miss if we're not really paying attention. And so finding your competitive edge, anybody can do it. That's the beauty of it. And we can learn from people already that have discovered theirs and using those in the service of others.
I love that, because there's no need to reinvent the wheel, and how you do one thing is how you do everything. And I think the grit and resilience of people who have survived and thrived in these disruptive times all through their life. I've been listening to your podcast, and like some of the guests you have are incredible. Like there was one guest who had been in jail or something like that, and now he's like
got a few of those.
I love that. I love that. That's why I launched this podcast over 2 years ago during the pandemic, to inspire people to go from stuck to unstoppable. So how can we push through fear? Because I feel like we're all like going through so much trauma in the last 3 years, the pandemic and all the disruptions with that, the rioting. I lived in LA before this, where it was like really crazy. And now the economy and the war, it just seems like everyone's going through PTSD. How do we push through that fear, like some of your guests have, and we both, I'm sure, have, to keep going?
Well, there is a blueprint for success. And I think a lot of times we all overcomplicate it. I know I've done that in the past. And, we want to create these grandiose plans. And then when those plans don't work out, or we don't stick to the plan, we beat ourselves up, and it becomes this vicious cycle of, we didn't do what we said we were going to do, maybe all the way. We did part of the work or not any of it at all.
Right.
It's almost like you say, I'm going to start that new diet and work out January 1.
Right.
Maybe some people start it, maybe they don't, but they fall off the wagon. And so what we need to look at is the blueprint. Really, you need to back up into the beginning. I always think about start with the end in mind. Like, what is it you really want to accomplish?
Right.
And what we've done, and I use this in my own life, is I think in 90-day sprints, 90-day increments, Because really beyond that, the reality is no one knows what's going to happen in 90 days from now in the economy, with your job, with your relationships, with your health, with any of that. But you can plan in the shorter period, which will allow you then to back into this and win each day. And so when you take the goal back in and say, okay, if I want to accomplish that in days, who must I be? What must I do every day? Well, if I want to be fit, that means I need to work out every day. If I want to make more money, that means I need to make sales calls. I need to, whatever my job might be, I need to do the work that's required to earn the income and revenue. So each day I'd go, okay, if I need to contact 10 people and I'm going to convert at 20%, okay, that's 2 people a day. Does that get me to my goal, right? So we can start backing into all of these things that we want to accomplish. The same's true in relationships, date night, taking your kids out. We've got 3 kids. So making sure you've got time programmed in will allow you to look up and go, okay, I won the day. When I win enough days, I win the week. Win enough weeks, I win the month. Win 3 months in a row, you win the 90 days. But here's the trick. I'll tell you, Lisa, this is where I find most people are getting it wrong, is you have to start with your beliefs. A lot of times we start with, here's the actions I need to take. And I just told you the actions.
Right.
But we need to go a little bit deeper, which is, what do you actually believe about yourself? Do you believe you're worthy of achieving that goal? Because if you don't, and you believe money's the root of all evil, or you believe I'll never make 7, 8 figures in income, or if you believe whatever it is, I can't lose this amount of weight, you're not going to get there. That's just the truth. So what we need to do is get into that subconscious and figure out, why do I have these beliefs that are limiting me today?
Yes.
And then what must I replace them with to believe that I'm worthy and I'm capable? And then what action does is actions then build the confidence muscle and allow us to say, okay, every day I voted this future person I want to become in 90 days. And so that's how that cycle works. And for anybody listening, look, it sounds easy, but the truth is you're going to have to rewire some ways that you think. And then by doing the actions each day, you're now reprogramming your brain and really your body to say, this is just who I am. This is what I do. Beliefs will turn into your mindset, turns into your actions, and that actually creates your results.
I love that 90-day plan. It's just so actionable. I hope you guys are taking notes, because we are talking to a genuine person who's created a winning culture and success in the last 2 decades. So really it is crushing those limiting beliefs and inputting new beliefs. And I try to do that every day. And that's helped me succeed, by believing that you're lovable and you're worthy and you're good enough and that you can do this, and that success leaves clues. So this person did it, I can do it. So I love this advice for our audience. And I want to jump over to a new topic too, about creating winning cultures, because what you've done is phenomenal. So what tips do you have on teams and creating winning cultures, and just looking at your numbers and reverse engineering it like your other goals?
I love this one. And this is one too that I've studied quite a bit, because growing up and playing soccer, anybody that follows a sport will know that there are 11 players on the field.
Yeah.
And there's typically going to be 8 to 10 more players on the bench or on the team that are wanting to get in the game too. And so you have this large group, and you all need to have a common mission and a common goal, and everybody row in the same direction. And we hear these cliches. What that really means is, what are the standards that you've set for the team? Such as, we're going to show up early to our meetings. Everybody's going to be on time. We don't come late. When people do, we're not going to ridicule them or anything. We're going to talk to them on the side afterwards and make sure they know, hey, Lisa, I saw you were about 3 minutes late. Is everything okay? I want to check in just to make sure, hey, look, maybe you had an emergency.
You never know, right?
You never know. And so I'm not going to assume that you were just late because you didn't care. I'm going to actually just ask the question. So there, you'll notice what the example I'm using is very intentional, because it's something that's a standard. But when somebody doesn't meet the standard, I think it's just as important. How are you coaching and holding them accountable to that, so that they know, oh, wow, Brian really does mean, like, we're going to start meetings on time here. Look, and if that's not your jam, and in your company, you're like, look, man, we give everybody 5-10 minutes. We're just loose. Cool. Good for you. But you probably have some standards in your performance area of each role. Like maybe your sales team, you have a certain quota that you want them to hit. You have certain standards you want them to follow up or be accountable to. Just make sure you think of it in 2 parts. One is, What is the standard? Is it clearly communicated? So those expectations are there. And then two, you're following up with, I call it kind of care and competition blended together. I care enough to ask, but we're highly competitive. And so I want you to win on our team. And what I learned through soccer was everybody really does want to win on the team. Like that's why they're there. And so I'm going to assume positive intent of if they're there and they showed up, they want to win and they want to compete. It's my job as the leader to make sure, are they in the right spot? Do they have the right resources? Do they have the right environment? And so as you go through this, what I would tell you is being the example is crucial. If you are the leader of a team, whether it's 2 people or 200 people, they are watching what you do even more than what you say. I'm going to repeat that.
Great.
Your team is watching what you do in and out of the office, by the way,
Right.
more than what you actually say. Because when you're talking to them, you're doing your Zoom calls, you're doing whatever meetings you have, you probably, if you're really good, get 30-40% of their attention. That's the truth. That's just the numbers. They're going to zone out. They're going to be doing something else.
Yeah. That might
right? So, I mean,
checks out.
Yeah. They check out. They're looking at their phone. They're thinking about what they got to do tonight for dinner, what they're want to do. Onto that. I mean, they're all over. So what you need to do is when you live by that standard and that example, what you're now allowing your team is an insight into who you are as a leader. And this third part to this, I would tell you is when I started to show up on social and document and share the things that I was doing in and out of the office, the wins we had as a team, what I was doing with my family, I was giving people permission to say, okay, this is how Brian runs his day. I'll even share my calendar, my Sunday night planning, and say, look, this is how I set up my weeks and my days, because I want them to see, I don't just talk about these things. This is what I actually do. And that's how you can move the team forward. The more people you get bought in, doing it that way, the more people will want to assimilate and be part of that group. Because when you're winning, everybody wants to be part of a winning team and they want to know how they can win for themselves. So be that example, hold people accountable, and clearly communicate those expectations and standards regularly.
Those are fantastic tips. I love how you start with leading with values, both in your personal life and your business. And that way you're creating a winning culture. You're sharing wins, which inspires people to not quit, stay the course, do better, and that you don't lower your standards, but you first question people like, are you okay if they're not meeting their numbers or their deadlines? And that is empathy too, which is so needed in today's world. So do you have any last tips you want to leave our audience with about how can they be unstoppable in this disruptive environment in business?
Yeah, you know what I would say is give yourself a little bit of grace. And the reason I say this is you've made it this far in life. And what I've found in everybody's story as you're listening, you've probably overcome something that if you look back now, you're like, I don't know how I got through that. And whether that was addiction, you had a bad car wreck, you had financial collapse, you got fired from, I don't know what it is, but what I do know, working with enough people in my own life, is we've all had things that could have completely wiped us out. And we could have ended up somewhere completely different on the street, dead, right? Like, and so what I say to everybody is we're really all not that different. And I start with grace because you got to give yourself some grace into the fact that you are where you are for a reason. You've overcome all of this. But now if you really feel that calling, and I think a lot of us have that kind of urge of like, man, I want to be the best I can be for myself, for my family, whoever it is. And, I think about been married over 20 years. I've got 3 kids. I've got people that look up to me and like in business and teams. And like, I want to be the best for them. I want to live a life of no regrets. And so what I would share with you is every day when you do the things that are hard, it does become easier. And it might seem like, I remember last year I was starting to run and I hadn't run in years, like really long distance or anything. Let's be real. The first month and probably second month was really hard. Like I couldn't even run a mile all the way through at a decent pace. And then I was up to 5, 6, 7 miles in a row after like 4 and 5 months. So I think a lot of times we underestimate what we can do in a short period of time, like that 90 days, if we commit to doing the small things every day. And what I would leave you with is this thought is, if you don't do it now, when are you going to do it? Waiting for this perfect time, waiting for this perfect moment. It truly does not exist. I believe, this is a belief of mine that changed. I believe you can create your own timing in life. You choose right now, if you're listening to this, you're going to go take one action to go change your life. And, one of my mentors, Ed Milet, wrote the book, The Power of One More. And I really do believe that your one call, one relationship, one meeting, one from breaking through to that next level in your life. And so when you look at it that way, you should get excited every day to go, one person I talked to today, one phone call could change the trajectory of my life. And I've seen that in business. I've seen that in investments. I've seen that people joining our team. I've seen that in my own just fitness journey, being a dad. Look, guys, let's not shy away from the things that are hard to do, because that's where the breakthroughs are. And when you show up every day consistently, I believe you'll create that timing. You'll create opportunities. I just invite you on the journey, because wherever you are, you want to get somewhere, and that gap in between is action. You got to take it.
I love that. That is just such a great way to leave our audience. I especially love the part about action, and take imperfect action now. If not now, when? All of those tips, just one thing, and you're leading with grace and grit, and knowing that you can overcome what you're currently going through because you've done hard things before. So where can people find you, your podcast, your website? I know LinkedIn is a good one.
Yeah, I love hanging out on LinkedIn, and I'm on Instagram quite a bit. We're starting to grow some YouTube stuff, but the easiest place is just my website. You can go to www.briancovey.com. You'll find everything there, and you'll find links to the podcast, my book. We've got a 6-week coaching program that we just launched for small groups, and a lot of other free resources as well. So if anything's resonated, I always ask everybody one favor: share this with your friends, right? And make sure they get their hands on it and get to listen. And then secondly, let Lisa and I know if anything stuck out that you're like, you know what, this made a difference. I love to hear what that is. And that's how we learn. And that's how we really show up to serve. And if that's done that for you, let us know.
Well, thanks, BrianCovey.com. Is that right?
Yes, that's it.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being a great guest on the podcast. Thanks for coming to WholeCEO with Lisa G. After over 20 years helping people lose weight and get fit, I'm so excited to announce that I found the missing link with my coaching. Message me if you want to learn how to look better, feel better, and go faster with a master. Lisa G at lisagfit.com.